Okay, I'm just gonna quickly make an absolutely beginner's guide to playing Psylocke. Now, I know there's gonna be a lot of advanced stuff in there, but tutorials and stuff online of like how to do stuff at like a higher level. I'm going to try and explain it in that way. You can sort of understand like what I did during this game. I couldn't record the first round, but what I did during this game in order to help you better understand what to do in your own games. Um, because I think it's really easy sometimes to just like watch a high level player and see them doing a bunch of stuff, and you're like, okay, well, why doesn't it work for me? Right now, for background context, ended season 0 with Diamond 2, about to hit Diamond 1, I think, and I was still going like 50 and 6 in those games, but it was holidays. I didn't have enough time to keep playing. I really wanted to hit GM, but I was GM and Overwatch or top 2% of players or whatever in Overwatch 2. And coming over to this game, Psylocke was a pretty easy transition for me for playing Tracer. So it's like I climb pretty easily. So I'm going to try and teach those skills to people who don't quite understand necessarily like what to do when they get into their games. Now, I'm playing Psylocke. She's an assassin flanker, and that's my type of play style. And she's, you probably do the same thing with Black Panther or anybody else. Like, first thing I'm going to try and do is get into a good position. Right now, because of the fact that I just used all of my cooldowns to get out there faster, I am trying to just left click in order to shorten my cooldowns, but also I am not going to want to be the first to engage, despite the fact that I can get there first. I don't want to be the first one that's seen unless I take a solo duel with someone, right? I'm playing a little aggressive because I have my ultimate, right? So here I see a Magic who up close wins this duel, and then I see that there's a second person there, right? 2v1s are bad. You want to try and, as Psylocke, get to a position where they're not looking at you and then take them out before they can see you. Now, this was kind of aggressive. I probably shouldn't have done this, but it worked out for me. So I see that there's too many there, and I immediately use my abilities to back up. I don't want to stay there any longer than I have to. Now, this is where I messed up. I don't have any cooldowns now to keep myself safe. But I see her dash in. I see her use the cooldown. And when I see her use the cooldown, then I want to ult, right? Now, I only get one kill, but in this game, much like Overwatch, it's a game of numbers. Now we have the advantage. In a 6v5, we have a much better chance of taking that point. So here I go up. I grab this little for a little bit more health, armor, shield, whatever. And now I'm just trying to stay behind cover in order to play safe. And as I ask my friends in chat for heals, right? And now I get the heals, I go back in, right? I see the Venom. I don't really care about him. I'm going to look to see who is the problem. Who's my team? Who can I kill that my team is dealing with? And right now, since we have the advantage, I kind of want to take another 1v1. Squirrel Girl does right now a lot of damage, especially up close. You want to be careful getting in close on her. But I was like, if I win this duel, it'll be a huge advantage for my team because it's much easier to clean up the tanks than it is to clean up a or much clean up the tanks afterwards than it is to try and kill the tanks first. So I just ignore them for the most part. Like in low elo, you can generally ignore them unless you need to peel for your team. But because I already knew that we had the advantage, I'm going to play more aggressive. So here, after getting the kill on Squirrel Girl, and by the way, just because people who play at a higher elo like play well doesn't mean that like our aim is perfect. My aim is here clearly garbage here. But if you time your engages right, if you use your abilities in the correct way, you can win easily. So right here, I'm shooting at the clones and I'm shooting at Doctor Strange, and I'm like, I need to reprioritize who I'm shooting at. And I look to see who the squishier characters are around him. And I see the supports in the back, and I'm like, okay. I get a quick execute, left click, right click, left click, just doing that stuff. And here, now I know I can play aggressive, right? Now it's just cleanup. None of this, this stuff doesn't matter at this point. Throwing in melees helps. Okay. So now I'm cloaking just to run in faster and keep poking. what I'm doing by poking all of this time too is not just like reducing my cooldowns, it's to constantly build my alt meter as fast as possible. Even a little bit, a 1%, 2% here or there, like it makes a big difference in the end. Here, I leave this area because of the fact that once again, you don't want to get picked too early. In this game, it's an objective based game. So when we already have control of the objective, I don't want to die. I just want to keep pressure and keep them from trying to take the objective. So what I'm going to do is back away from that window because if it's Squirrel Girl, she's shooting these grenades at you, right? And if you're in a singular window, she can hit you really easily. So you want to keep that and keep kind of like stuff like that in mind. You don't want to funnel in. So as Psylocke, I want to go to a different angle. I want to like rotate to a side. And even as other DPS, this is what you want to do. You want to sort of create, if both teams are just like facing each other like this, then it's just kind of whoever gets the lucky pick. And if there's a Hawkeye or Hell on the enemy team, then it's usually them. But if you're playing other characters, you want to try and do like a pincer attack, right? So that way it forces one group to like turn both ways. So that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm like, I'm gonna try and turn and try and find an off angle, right? And I see Strange, I see them. And once again, I know I'm not gonna kill them, but I am going to build my ult. And now I see one, I see two. I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here. And once again, I mess up. I am not great. I always forget that wall is there. I mess up, I get out, I lose one of my cooldowns because of the fact that I only should have used one dash to get out of there, right? But once again, here I'm going. They're all this is where my team is. I don't want to be where they're at, right? So I go over here. And look at that. I am controlling space by making sure that they don't take this angle, right? And I am just going to sit there and keep spamming, right? And as I see they start to like push aggressively, I play out. I get back because I can't fight all those people at once, and I don't want to be the first to engage. And also, I have 97% on my ult. I don't want to lose that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and play safe and wait for the right opportunity in which I feel confident, which I can get someone and execute them and get back out. Or I can cloak in and grab someone and get out. And Loki makes it very difficult for Psylocke. He's a really hard counter to Psylocke because of his clones. It messes with her ult and his immortality, also a big problem. But overall, you can just play safe and learn when you want to engage, right? And I see that some of these people are outside the immortality, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to engage now because she can't get back into it in time, right? Cloak uses her ult to try and counter me. And this is when, by the way, this is important. You can't just always look ahead as to what your team is doing, what your team is shooting at. You want to also pay attention to the fact that, like, if there's a magic, odds are she's diving your supports. And when you don't have supports, it's harder for you to get heals. So peel your supports first and then go back in. So here I go. I'm helping try and peel. And I go back in, right? Loki messed up by standing out of position. He tried to ult, didn't get away with it. And once again, go back to the magic who's on my supports. You want to try and get the targets that you know you can get. It's much easier. Like if you're trying to pincer the enemy team most of the time, but you have somebody diving into your backline, you get to that person first. And if everybody teams up on the one person diving and kills them, then you turn. It's the same for like if it's a magic, if it's a Black Panther, a Psylocke, a Spider-Man. If you know that they have one on the enemy team and they're harassing your supports, turn towards them first, take them out, and then go back in because then you have a numbers advantage. So here, once again, we have the numbers advantage. There's the tank. I don't really want to deal with the tank. But if there's nothing else to shoot the tank, right? I probably should, turn to the group. But once again, even though the group was low, I didn't get greedy. We already have the advantage. I need to stay alive. So all I'm doing is I'm just poking. Poke, 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 poke. I only learned recently you can kill those things. But here, as they're all... Normally, this is like... you'd want to try and find an off angle, but we're already fighting and engaged here. And they have to basically rush through this. Like, they have to come through this spot because there's not really a whole lot of time to go the other directions. And there's not enough time for me to rotate without putting a bunch of pressure on my team. So I stay here. And I see him low, I dash in, and I cloak out. This is how you play here. You don't just dive in anytime. You wait for your team to engage or you wait for someone to make a mistake and then you execute them and get out. Here's a bunch of ults coming, and I'm like, okay. I see my friend dies, so I'm like, oh, we might lose this fight, especially because especially because they engage super hard with ults. And here I am shooting Groot, and this is when I realized, like as I'm like charging my ult off of him, because everyone else is like too far away. Uh, he's standing in the cloak ult, so I'm like not getting anything done. And here's when I thought that we were like, this is my bad. I probably should have like rotated. I thought the fight was going to be over, but I realized I was like, oh no, we could actually like turn this thing. So there I see magic. I'm building my ult. I'm just playing safe. Whenever you have ult, if you are close to ult, like 90%, you want to prioritize staying alive to get that ult first. Same is true in Overwatch. Prioritize when you're that close to ult, getting that ult up. Here's where, once again, you see how I'm just prioritizing staying alive? Like, I can't help my team until I get health to go back in. Now I have health, and now with that amplifier, I know I can go back in. And once again, there's the group, but I'm shooting past the group. I see both supports. I know they used all their abilities earlier. He cloaked to get out, execute supports. I cloak here to reload and sort of re-get my bearings back, right? And once again here, I focus the group because he happens to be the lowest. There's no supports. He's going to die. But you see how what I'm talking about is like, I'm not trying to play super aggressive or go for big plays. Sometimes you ult and you just ult one person. But if you get the pick, that's huge value. Especially depending on, who the character is. Maybe they have their ult ready. Maybe they're a support. Maybe you even solo ult a tank, but you kill the tank. Like, that's pretty big value too. Like, in these games of hero-based shooters, you want to go for that numbers advantage. You want to try and slowly push to do that, which is also the reason why you see me here prioritize staying alive more than trying to get a pick. Because even if I get a pick, but I die for it, it might not be worth it. Because every time you get a pick, even if it's a high priority pick, but you die, you put your fate in the hands of your teammates. And trust me, just don't do that. So this round, I'm going to do the exact same thing where I'm going to try and get into position and we're going to play around the objective. We're not trying to, we're not going to try and force anything. We're only going to try and go for the stuff that we know we can get. Also, if you dash up and then fall, you keep the momentum. And then when you hit the ground, then you cloak. So that way you don't lose any of that momentum of cloaking in the air. I saw another guy's video. He told me how to, I can't remember which one it is. I'm sorry. But he told me that, and he said that in one of his videos, and it was actually super helpful. So even if it gets you another second or so, it's helpful. So here I'm going in. Punisher is really easy for Psylocke. So I'm going in and I'm just poking. Poke, poke, poke. See how I'm like trying to take this off angle? I have all my abilities. My friend gets blocked off. Psylocke doesn't do a whole lot of damage to things like Groot's walls. So unless I have to shoot them or have nothing else to shoot, I just will probably try and get around them. So here I cloak in because I think maybe with a dash, I might be able to execute Punisher and get out. But I see that I went a little too aggressive. I didn't see the soul bond until afterwards. I could have stayed in without using that dash. But here I'm just spamming my left clicks, trying to build alt charge. And here I'm like, we can't see anything. And I told my team a voice like, let's just go back, go to point. Like, let's take the objective and pull them out of that smoke because nobody's going to get anything done in there. Here I have my abilities, so I cloak in, left click, right click, dash, and I messed it up. So I rotate around. Now, this is the part where I messed up. I don't think I should have gone this way, right? Because this is a good example of what sort of not to do. The downtime in fights is what it's called, is when the fight is already engaged and people are fighting and shooting, but you're not there to even pull attention, right? I went this direction and it probably wasn't the best idea because look how long it's taking me now to get back into the fight. And you hear, I am Groot, I have Agamotto. That means ults are happening and I'm not there to help. That's a huge problem in games like this. Like, you need to be there. So once again, now I'm here. I have a bird's eye view. I see the Cloak and Dagger ult. I see the other support ult. And at this point, I'm just going to try and build my ult because nothing is going to die in there right now. I'm going to tell you right now, there's 3 supports. There's a Luna ult, Invisible Woman ult, and there's a Cloak and Dagger ult. It doesn't matter what I do here. Nothing's going to die, even if I land every shot perfectly. So I'm just going to poke and try and build some ult charge once again, because now that I know 3 support ults are gone, my ultimate is going to do a whole lot more damage when it does come up. So I'm just going to poke, poke, poke. And I'm going to say, I'm telling my teammates, like, okay, let's get out of here. Let's just reset. Resetting is when you know the fight is over and you just want to get your team back together. So if you know a fight is over and you're not going to survive, sometimes it's faster just to die and to regroup, or to back out of the fight if you know you can run away and regroup with your team. So that way you can push in as a full six. A big problem a lot of people have in these games is engaging too early or not knowing when to engage. Like Tank's engaging like a Venom because he can swing, he's got so much mobility. He'll dive in, but his team is still walking out of spawn. Or as a Psylocke, they engage first because of the fact that they don't understand. You're not supposed to be the first to engage. You want to be the assassin that gets finds somebody who you recognize made a mistake, used their abilities wrong, or stood out of position, and then execute them. So here, I'm just waiting for my team. You saw me turn around there. I turned to see where my team was coming from. This is a very valuable skill. This is why I prefer this over like the health bars and like Overwatch UI that people advocated for. Like I want to be able to have the game sense and knowledge to turn around, look, see where my team is, and turn back around. Like, okay, now we can engage soon. I thought I could sneak in here, and when I realized I couldn't, I had both my dashes to get out, and I'm like, okay, well, now I screwed up because 0 cooldowns, right? So I poke. I go back to poking, trying to lower those cooldowns back down. I don't know what that was for, but don't do that. What that Punisher did, that was a terrible idea. So here, I'm poking whoever I can. Amplifier means that we can just do a lot of damage. I didn't use my ult because of the fact that we got the Punisher and we got the Luna. So there's no reason I need to use my ult here to clean up when we could just do it with the rocket ult already, right? Because you see, we got the Groot, we got the Strange, we got the Invisible Woman, but you see now how like, you know, the temptation to use your ult to get like a big cleanup or something is there. But it's like if you already are in a 6v4 and you've already caught like got a lot of pressure and there's like already like a Rocket Raccoon ult going, like you don't need to use more of your ults in order to clean up the rest of that fight. Like don't do that. Save your ult, because now when they try to engage again, I have my ult ready, right? And we also have, you know, 3 other ults, which makes it very powerful. So here I am, and I'm just sort of waiting. I'm holding angles. And I hear them opening a portal. So I start getting to location to be like, where are they going to pop it up? Like behind, to the side. Take a look, and I see it's from over there, right? I see 2 isolated. I see, because I knew they were all going to sort of back out of the Invisible Woman ult, and I knew that those 2 near me were easy pickings. Psylocke ult works great for like 1 or 2 people, sometimes 3, but realistically, because she just dances between each and every person in there, including clones or Monstro spawn or whatever else, it's better to try and isolate 2 people and then clean up from there. So here, same thing. Now it's just clean up, right? And you see how I target changed there and prioritized a different one? Like, I'm not going to kill Groot. Even if we all focus him, like maybe, but it's like, this one here is slowing the fight down. So I'm just going to change priority targets and go for her instead. Also, I cloak naturally whenever I see like Cloak and Dagger around because, I don't know, her and Scarlet Witch kind of scare me. But once again, we're just holding that space. I'm trying to find an off angle. You see how my team is on the point and I'm going to the side? Because you see how that, what was it? Invisible one? No. Cloak. I get the 2 of them confused. See how Cloak there was turned towards my team and I was off to the side? Like, you want to do that every single time. When they're not looking at you, that's your biggest advantage. See, look at this. No, none of them are looking at me, right? But they use their ult and they get out. And right there, quick decision making. I see Punisher up close. He's got a shotgun. He turns and looks at me and hits me once. I'm immediately out. I just want to try and survive. I know there's a health pack up here. I grab it. I come back in. Now look at, he's not looking at me, right? Boom. Easy kill. Quick melee in there for that. Oh, this is funny. I couldn't, it was like, please let me in. I just went for Doctor Strange because if you hit him in the back, he can't shield. And this right here is just cleanup, right? But The best way to play is to always try and sort of create those off angles, create those openings, because it's much easier to try and kill someone who's not shooting back at you, right? And when you cloak in and execute someone from the side and then dash out, it's much easier because they don't see you coming. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. As soon as you dash out and survive, turn back around, left click on the tanks, left click on everyone else, control those off angles, and then reset your cooldowns so you can cloak back in, go from the side, execute someone, and dash back out. That's what you want to do. Everyone has heard, I'm sure, the combos of left click, dash, right? Like generally speaking, that's how you should do it. You know, sometimes you turn, get a melee in there, whatever. The point is, you what you want to do is prioritize staying alive, because sometimes people get the drop on you, much like they did in this video. There's times where like the magic at the start got the drop on me and took me by surprise, and because of it, I was like, "Oh, I should die here." But because I have my ultimate from the previous round, am able to take her out and then give us the advantage. And it's not a waste to use an ult like that because someone died. Like, imagine using an ult and people just heal right through it, right? Uh, but yeah, the what you want to do, because it's such a numbers game, is that you are so much more powerful as a team the more of you that are alive, that you want to try and prioritize staying alive. Prioritize staying alive and getting the drop on someone, but also limiting that downtime of where you know you're always shooting, you're always doing something. If people are fighting, you need to be fighting too. Because if you're trying to get into a flank position, but you already hear alts and shooting going off, you can't take the time to go to that flank position. You need to stay where you're at or try and make where you're shooting from work. Uh, but yeah, hopefully this helps sort of illustrate like, the thought process behind how to play like a Psylocke or assassin flanker types, or even just like in general. These are very similar lessons to how you could play Punisher in terms of just taking an off angle and controlling that space. Uh, Either way, no matter what, it'll sort of work sort of generally across the board, for all DPS heroes and stuff like that, or even a little bit for support. Um, I will admit I can play a lot better in strategist and support, or DPS and support in this game than I can on tank. I have not found the tank that I enjoy yet, so still working on that. But yeah, hopefully this is a good absolute beginner's guide and thought process and understanding of like how to play Psylocke and why I did everything that I did there. Um, so that way it's helpful to others, because I know that there's a lot of like, oh, here's this pro player, here's this, top one above all player. It's just like, but it doesn't quite go over the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. So I hope this helps. Anyway, if people like this, maybe I'll make more, but I don't know. I'm just doing this for fun.